I used to price all of my work based on hours and effort. And then I realized that was actually really stupid. It was a bad idea for me, and it was a bad idea for our clients as well. So I'm going to actually show you exactly how to value price digital marketing without feeling like you're stressing out or giving yourself anxiety over guaranteeing specific results over short windows of time. But warning, this gets a little bit heavy on the math side, but I think it's really worth it to be able to dive in to see what the metrics are for an optimized funnel and how you can value price results based on those metrics. So if you do this, I guarantee you will make more money, get your clients better results, and you can do it in a way that doesn't stress you out, feeling like you're trying to guarantee stuff that you don't have control over. So let's jump into it. So right off the bat, the reason that I felt like this is really important was because if you don't move to value pricing, then you're virtually guaranteed to always have thin margins in your business forever. And thin margins means little profit, and little profit means you'll probably burn out. And the reason for that is by basically doing hourly billing, you're guaranteeing you always have thin margins, because the way that we would figure out what the cost of the project was is we'd figure out how much time and effort and like what's the actual cost to us to actually implement this project, and then we would put a thin margin on top. And so that means the whole pricing model is guaranteed to give you thin margins because that's how the model works. It's like every single project always has thin margins because you put the thin margin in there on purpose every time. So what that means is you'll never get the profit margins that you really want, and your business is going to stall out. But it's also bad for the client too, because you're actually charging them for the time and the effort, and they don't care about the time and the effort, right? They care about the results. I'll give you an example. Suppose you hired me to get leads for you, okay? And I give you three different options. One option is I'll snap my fingers right now and double your revenue. That's option A. Option B would be I'll work really hard for you for a full year, and by the end of the year, you'll double your revenue. And then option C would be I'll work really hard for you for a full year, but even after that, you have the same revenue as you had before and no results, right? So if you're like me, obviously you would choose option A every single time because doubling your revenue right now would be better than doubling your revenue a year from now. But even that would be better than not doubling your revenue at all. So basically I put option C in there just to prove the point that nobody wants to pay for time and effort if it doesn't have a result associated with it. And it also proves that faster is better, right? So like if you're billing for time and hours and effort, then you can't do it's like you're incentivized against yourself to make it take longer, which it's misaligned incentives all the way across the board. So that's why you need to get into this value pricing thing. So the next question comes, well, how do you do it? Like, how do you price results in a way that makes you feel like you're not giving yourself anxiety over trying to guarantee stuff that you can't guarantee? Like you can't guarantee, hey, I'll get you the first slot of Google, or I can't guarantee that you hit a certain number of sales tomorrow or something like that. So like, how do you do it? And so here's how we do it. The mindset shift that occurred to me that completely changed everything was the value is in the system, not the individual trials. And by what I mean by system is like the funnel, like the sales funnel. And I use that term loosely. Basically, all I'm talking about is what's the process? What's the customer journey look like? Like, how do you go from traffic to leads to clients, right? So like traffic is just like, how do I get people's attention? And leads is, how do I get contact information from those people who are now looking at my stuff so that I can communicate with them, even if they haven't bought anything yet? And then how do I nurture those leads into being paying customers where we now have a customer relationship there? That's what I'm talking about by the system. Like developing that system is where the value is, not in the individual ad campaigns, right? So like you'll never get to a point where you hit a hole in one on every shot. The goal is what do you learn from the shot that you just took to make it more likely to get to the hole in the next shot? And so it's like that overall process is what you're really looking for. And so what that means is we have these gold standard metrics that we're shooting for in terms of that cycle. And basically, here's how it works. I want about 20% of the traffic that comes to my site to convert into leads. Like that's the standard. Now you'll probably start out much lower than that. You can get it higher than that, but like I want to shoot at about 20%. So like if I have 1,000 visitors hitting my site, I'd like to get roughly 200 leads from that. And that's kind of the first step in the sales cycle or in the funnel, so to speak. And then the second metric that's really important is of the people who have become leads, what percentage of those can you nurture into paying customers? And I'd like to see that at about 10% over the course of 30 days. So if over 30 days I drive 1,000 visitors, I want that to turn into 200 leads where I have like and by lead, what I mean is that they've opted in for something. Like they've given me an email address for, maybe they're watching a webinar, maybe they took a quiz, maybe they got a cool top 10 list. I give them something cool in exchange for an email address, or it could be other things too. Like usually building an email list is my go-to first step because email lists are so powerful. But it could be something like, hey, subscribe to a YouTube channel, which would be really cool if you did. You should kind of give me a thumbs up on this. It makes me feel really happy. And you can say, hey, Lee's feeling happy because I just did a like. But it could be something like that. Or it could be join a Facebook group, although I don't really like using Facebook for anything. But something like some way to be able to keep in touch with people is really what you're after with that first lead generation opt-in that you want about 20%, and then you can nurture the leads over time so that you want about 10% of those leads to become paying customers. And those are kind of the gold standard numbers that I shoot for. Now, my experience with working with clients is most of the time they're nowhere near those gold standards. And instead, it's more like they probably don't have a funnel at all. They probably don't have any system whatsoever. And so if they don't have any system whatsoever, then these are the numbers I fall back on as what I'm aiming for. Now, if they do have a system in place, kind of in my experience over the years, it's like it doesn't really perform. It's performing really, really badly, which is, of course, why they're reaching out to me in the first place, because if it was performing great, why do they need me? And so it's usually bad, and it's usually like 0 to 5% is kind of their lead conversion rate. And their client conversion rate, like getting customers from the leads, is somewhere around like 3 to 5%. So it's interesting because if you take the same numbers that we were looking at before, like traffic at 1,000, and apply these bad metrics to it, basically what you end up you have like 1,000 visitors, that converts into like 50 leads instead of like 200, because you're only converting at like a 5% of that 1,000 visitors becomes leads. And then the nurturing sequence is usually like maybe 3 to 5%, something like that. So you get like from 1,000 visitors, you're getting like maybe 2, maybe 3 paying customers out of that. And that's kind of like where a lot of people start with. And so the interesting thing about that is if you can improve the lead conversion rate and the client conversion rate and kind of get those up to our gold standards of 20% for leads and 10% for clients, you can like 10x the number of clients that you get without needing any more traffic, right? So like you don't have to buy any ads, you don't have to do any SEO, you just like take the traffic the client already has and get them 10 times more clients just because you've improved the system, right? Because you've improved the funnel. And that's why I keep underscoring the fact that the value is in the system, not the individual trials. Because you can improve the trials over and over so that the system performs at the level that we just looked at. And then even then, you can like 10x the number of clients, right? Without any more traffic. Now, sometimes you'll find that the site doesn't have any traffic to begin with, and you've got to do something about that. Or sometimes it'll be like really unqualified traffic or something where it's just not, they're just not getting the right leads or whatever. And so you need more traffic. So let's talk about how to get the traffic. And really, what we're not after is traffic. We're really after those leads. And there's 3 ways that I really know about to get leads. One is you can just buy the leads, right? There's services like Google local service ads where you can just buy phone calls and you only pay for the calls. So you only actually buy the leads themselves. Or there's other platforms like Angie and Home Advisor where they'll like email you or like text you the contact information for these leads, and then they expect you to call them right away. But basically, in those situations, you're paying directly for leads, which is fine. But my favorite method is paid ads, because once you get your system, there's more work, of course. You have to do the ads and you have to set up this funnel like we've talked about. But once you do that, you can get leads for less. Like the cost per lead goes down usually significantly lower than if you just buy the leads directly. And that's my favorite way to go about it, where you can actually just buy the traffic and then convert the traffic to leads on your own. And then the third thing that you can do is you can influence the traffic. So what I'm talking about now is like SEO, like organic content marketing, stuff like that, where you don't really have those fine-tuned knobs like you do with paid traffic, but it's worth considering because once you get it all dialed in, then you get like free leads for a long time. So those are the 3 things you can do. Let's put buying leads kind of off to the side just for a second and talk about the 2 different forms of traffic, like paid and organic traffic. because it doesn't really matter whether it's paid or organic traffic. The conversion rates all still kind of work the same. So I use this thing that I call the client conversion factor, which kind of takes that kind of traffic, leads, clients kind of three-step process and kind of smushes it in so you know exactly how much traffic you need in order to drive a certain number of clients. Or if you know how many clients you want, you can refiddle the formula that I'm about to show you to figure out exactly how much traffic you need for the number of clients that you want. And here's how it works. So you take your lead magnet, your kind of lead conversion rate, which in our gold standard is kind of at 20%, and you multiply that by your client conversion rate, which in our gold standards is like 10%. So you're basically multiplying 20% times 10%. So that's like 0.2 times 0.1, and that gives you 0.02. So 0.02 is like your client conversion factor. And so then the formula becomes clients equals visitors times the conversion factor. So if you want to know how many clients you're going to get from a certain amount of traffic, you just say, here's how many visitors I'm getting, multiply that by your client conversion factor, and that will tell you how many clients you get from that amount of traffic. Or, and usually most of the time, the way that I like to do it is I like to say, well, how many clients do I, I know how many clients I want. Like I want to get 5 clients a month or something like that. And then I think, well, how much traffic do I need to drive to get 5 clients per month? And so the way that you do that is you kind of refiddle the equation. I'll put the whole equation down in the description if you want to see it from there. But basically the idea is you go clients divided by your client conversion factor equals the number of visitors that you need. So let's do a couple examples. So if you want 10 clients per month, you would do 10 clients divided by 0.02, and that would give you 500 visitors. So you need 500 visitors at our gold standard numbers in order to get 10 clients. Or you might say, well, what if I want 25 clients? We just do 25 divided by 0.02 equals 1,250. So you need 1,250 visitors to get 10 clients. And usually this is over like a 30-day window, right? So like if you can get 1,250 visitors over 30 days, I would like over that cycle to get 25 clients out of it. So let's do one more. If you wanted 60 clients, you would do 60 divided by 0.02. That equals 3,000 visitors. And now you've got your site set. You know exactly what you're aiming for. You say, well, how am I going to get these 3,000 visitors then? And that could be paid traffic. It could be organic traffic, some combination of the two. And now you kind of know you know exactly what you need to do. And you also know what the results will be once you do it, right? So that's where the value pricing thing really comes into play. So then how do you value price digital marketing? Well, suppose you were going to do all of this for like a personal trainer. Well, from what I know about personal trainers, I think an average price point is somewhere around like $300 per month. And I think that the average relationship lasts about 6 months. So if you kind of do the math, it's like $300 per month times 6 months. Usually the revenue is somewhere like $1,800 for the lifetime value of that six-month relationship. And then you think, well, there's some cost involved in actually fulfilling, like you have to pay some money to acquire the client, and maybe there's some cost to actually fulfilling on the training and everything. So let's say there's like a 70% profit margin. So you take the $1,800, you multiply that by 70%, or multiply times 0.7, and you see that you have $1,260 of profit in terms of the average client for the personal trainer. So you think, okay, sounds cool. What if you were able to bring in 60 new clients for your personal trainer over the course of the year? So you're looking at like maybe 5 new clients per month. And you say, well, how do I do that? Like what's the math behind that? And you think, well, okay, based on the different standards and everything that we've talked about, if you could bring in 60 clients over the course of the year, and each client has a revenue goal of like $1,800, but that's 70% profit margin. When you do the math, you're looking at maybe about $75,000 worth of profit for the client. I think it's exactly like $75,600 is kind of the profit that you're bringing in for the personal trainer. And I like to set our price at roughly 20% of the profit that we generate per year for the client. And so if you do all of that, then you would take $75,600 times 0.2, which is the 20% cut that we like to take, and it's roughly $15,000, like $15,120. And then you subtract out the ads that you have to spend to get, so even if you're paying like $1 per click, you only need to get 250 leads or 250 visitors to generate the number of clients that you want, because you would do the math of like 5 clients divided by our 0.02 client conversion factor equals 250. So that, remember back to the equation we just talked about. So we know that if we want 5 clients, we need 250 visitors to come, and then you go from visitors to leads to clients, and that ratio ends up with 5 clients. So even if you were going to buy the traffic at like $1 per click, it's only $250 a month. So then you think, well, that's about $3,000 a year. And so if you're charging roughly $15,000, then you're coming out with like $12,000, after you subtract the ad spend out. So that's like that's kind of like what I would charge. So what that means is it's roughly $1,250 per month. But I wouldn't charge based on months. I would charge in a little bit different. So the way I would set up the project would be I'd charge about $3,000 for the setup, because there's a lot of heavy lifting up front, because you got to build a website, you got to figure out what to say on the site, you got to get the lead nurturing sequence dialed in, all those emails and everything, and the opt-ins and stuff. So there's some setup. So I charge $3,000 for this setup, charge $100 a month for like hosting, maintenance, and like up to an hour of our tech support, and then $900 per month for the ongoing marketing behind it. And when you take that out for 12 months, that's roughly a $15,000 project. So that's basically how I would do it. And so now what you've done is you've value priced your way into figuring out what the price is for that project. And when it works, of course, it's like you've got really high profit margins, you've got consistent revenue coming in, your client's getting results, like everybody wins all the way down the line. But the big thing to remember is the value is that system, right? Like the value is this whole funnel that we've put together, not the individual ad campaign. So what that means is, like, if you run an ad campaign and it doesn't perform at these gold standards on the first shot, don't sweat it. It's okay. It's your learning. It's like maybe the target audience is off a little bit, or maybe the ad that you're running needs an optimized headline, or maybe there's too much of an inconsistency between the ad and the landing page they get to, or maybe the email opt-in that you've got is just not compelling enough, or something like that. Like maybe you're getting great clicks, but they're just not opting in. So maybe there's something wrong with the opt-in, or maybe there's something wrong with the nurturing sequence, and you send out 5 emails, but everybody drops off after the 3rd one. Well, what's wrong with that 3rd email? So you need to dial that stuff in. And like, I've been doing this for almost a decade now, right? It's like, and I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on Facebook ads and copywriting and funnel conversion optimization, all of that stuff. So if you want some help doing it, just hop on my calendar and we can talk about it. But either way, once you make this shift into value pricing, you have way higher profit margins, you have much more consistency to your cash flow, and your clients get way better results too. So that's how we do all of the pricing. Now, what about the pitching? Like, how do you actually sell websites to local businesses? Because generally speaking, I don't like to sell websites to people who don't already have a website. I know a lot of people like to start out that way because it seems like that's the easiest way to get going. I actually prefer to sell like website overhauls. And check out this next video and I'll show you how to do that.